Hey guys, today is Friday, September 4th. The time is 7:54 p.m. and the temperature is 21 degrees Celsius. I'm here in downtown Toronto by the Waterfront. And the plan for this walk is just to head west along the city's waterfront and take a look around. And at some point in the near future, the sun should be setting soon. I just finished recording a live stream, so if you were tuned into that, you might recognize this area as I literally just finished that a few minutes ago. So that was the foot of Yonge Street where I started, and this street here is Queens Quay West. And I'm currently walking west. And these towers up here are part of the city's South Core district, which lie just to the south of the financial district. And once I get past the Westin Hotel here, I'll turn left into Harbour Square Park. And from there we'll find the Jack Layton Ferry Terminal. And I'll make my way back over to Lake Ontario.
Oh, that would be good.
One thing I have noticed tonight is most of the street vendors seem to have returned to the city. During the pandemic, there hasn't been nearly as many of them as there normally would be. And I'm sure business is still suffering, but it's good to see them, especially up around Nathan Phillips Square where City Hall is. So this here is the foot of Bay Street, and to the north there is the financial district. So this side of the park is Harbour Square Park East. And to the left there is the ferry terminal. So if you want to hop on over to the Toronto Islands, you can go online and reserve a ticket. For an adult, I think it's about $8.19 for a return trip. For students, seniors, and younger children, it's less than that. And I believe it's currently a reservation-only system right now. I'd recommend checking out the ferry website just to see the times that it's operating. There's one of the neat features of this park here, the oversized bench. Seems to be someone on it right now. And of course Lake Ontario, and those are the Toronto Islands off in the distance. And that's looking towards Cherry Beach. And just beyond that is Thompson Park. I did a live stream through here about a week ago. And if you saw that, you might recall it was around the same time as this, but it was a lot busier. I think that night was a good 4 or 5 degrees warmer. But when I record the live streams, I am limited to a lower quality, typically 720p, which is what I've been streaming most of them in. So I wanted to come back and capture this area at sundown in a bit higher quality. There's certainly a much more peaceful atmosphere tonight. Someone's car alarm won't shut up in the distance. That's certainly a pleasant sound. And we're heading over to Harbour Square Park West, which is on the other side of this inlet, or whatever it is you call it. Oh, it looks like we found some ducks.
Oh, I was gonna try to pet it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
There's plenty more for you to try. Hope I didn't ruin her night. I think I hear that Aflac duck. There's a nice little man-made waterfall, which we might get a look at just up here. I always thought it was kind of unfortunate how these condos were positioned. They're kind of blocking the view of the waterfront from much of the city. They also block the view of the city from the islands when you're looking to the north. I don't think there was very good foresight at play when they designed and approved them, but I think that's a common critique of this area. And that right there is the tall ship Kojama, I think, or Kojama. It's normally docked in front of Harbourfront Centre. I think it's about 165 feet in length. And originally, it was first launched in the 1930s, if I'm not mistaken. And it wasn't too long ago that it was relocated to Toronto and sort of repurposed as a private cruise ship. I think they'll hold weddings on there and other private functions. They'll also host dinner cruises, which you can reserve online. And if I'm not mistaken, it's somewhere around $30, $32 to take an evening cruise on it, plus any other expenses you incur on the ship. And it's the only one of its kind on the waterfront here in Toronto, so that might be a unique experience. It's not one I've ever had. And this area that we're on now didn't actually exist, at least in terms of its landform, until the late 1800s. This was built on reclaimed land. Lake Ontario used to go all the way up to Front Street, which is several blocks to the north of here. And since then, and I think during a time period particularly around the 1920s, they really started completing the waterfront and filling it in. Toronto used to be more of an industrial port city. In fact, the area around Thompson Park and the Leslie Spit was being infilled to create harbors for ships that were coming in through the newly formed St. Lawrence Seaway. However, what happened in the 50s was a bit unforeseen, as that's when the container revolution sort of happened. So we started seeing a lot of things being shipped through containers on rail across the country, and the demand for seaports was significantly reduced. And thus eventually we started to see a more community-driven development of the waterfront, which has slowly been a work in progress ever since. I'm hoping at some point to do a daytime tour of this area. I'll talk a bit more about the history when it's easier to see things. In addition to taking a ferry to the islands, you could take one of these water taxis. I did look that up. on the way over here on the subway, and I believe it's most of those services charge $10 per person per direction, so it would be $20 round trip versus an $8 round trip on the public ferry. I think this place is called the Quay. I've been to a corporate event there. It's not uncommon for a lot of the big downtown companies to book out places in this area to hold their summer events for their employees. I think all these cruise ships are doing much less business these days, thanks to the pandemic. Although every time I've been down here, the Kojama never seems to struggle to be full of customers, so that's probably by far the most popular one. That's the old tall ship we saw sailing earlier. And this area here is the Harbourfront Centre. I think this area on the right is referred to as Canada Square. And just on the right here is a large man-made pond. There we go. I knew I'd seen that sign here before, Canada Square. And every winter they freeze over the pond. And they turn it into a skating rink. There's the power plant, an old industrial building. If I don't elaborate on something, that's my way of sort of admitting I don't know anything about it. And it looks like there's some activity going on at Billy Bishop Airport. I think I see some planes taxiing around the runways. Porter, which is the airline which runs out of that airport, is currently grounded. Here's a look at the Natural Pond. Looks like we found another duck. And there's a stage and concert theater just here on the right, where there would typically be festivals being held all summer long. But this year, they've all been canceled, of course. Here's a look at the stage space, or however you want to call it. Certainly a pretty time of night to be walking around this area. That's a look south onto the lake. Now I'm heading back towards Quay West. And this bridge has been disabled to allow boats to pass through. I think in the winter it's usually down and you can cross it over to the Amsterdam Brew House on the other side, which is a large craft brewery, bar and restaurant. They've got a very large outdoor patio area. And lately this area has been sort of an impromptu live concert area. So let's see what's going on there tonight. And this structure we're walking on, or I'm walking on, is the Simcoe wave deck. It's one of 3 wave decks on this part of the waterfront. They are planning to build a 4th one down by Parliament and Queen's Quay. And I think these wave decks opened in 2008 and 2009. They've been closed off for periods of time, as I guess it's seen that they're a bit too steep to accommodate everyone that wants to traverse them. You could take this down towards Waterfront and enter the Amsterdam Brew House, but I'll just stay on Queen's Quay West for this part. This recreation trail here is part of the Martin Goodman trail. It's a multi-purpose trail that runs across the city and heads over into Mississauga, as well as Oakville and even Burlington, if I'm not mistaken. Although I think it's a bit silly that they've designated the downtown portion here as a multi-use trail, as really it should be for cyclists, in my opinion, or inline skaters or joggers. Certainly not for walking, especially when you have all this space parallel to it where people can walk. It's certainly not too popular among the more avid cyclists, just because it's more of an obstacle course.
It's just guessing.
And you'll notice the design sort of encourages people to walk right in front of it without looking. There's a couple of red light runners because you have the streetcar platform right there, and then the recreation trail, and then the sidewalk. So it is great that it encourages so many people to get out on their bikes, but the design, at least in my opinion, leaves something to be desired because it's more like an obstacle course than a bike path. This here is the Reese wave deck. So that first one we went by, why is its name eluding me for some reason? Oh, the Simcoe wave deck, and this is the Reese wave deck. And then there's one more at Spadina called the Spadina wave deck. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking this up. And this here is H2O Park, or HTO. It's quite dark down here. I'm not sure how well the camera's picking this up, but this park was opened in 2007, and it features a neat little man-made beach on the south end, which we're about to walk through. It looks like there are some lights down by the waterfront, which should make things a bit more visible. I think this is part of a fire services facility. There's a fire rescue boat. And once again, this is Queens Quay West I'm heading back towards. So once again, I'm heading west on, or along Queens Quay West. The next major street will be Spadina Avenue. And just to the left there is HTO Park West. So that's the western counterpart to the one which we just walked through. And coming up ahead is the third and final wave deck. This is the Spadina wave deck, which is at the foot of Spadina Avenue. That's where the 510 Spadina streetcar will turn north. And it'll take you up through Chinatown. And where it ends at Spadina Station, Spadina Avenue will become Spadina Road. And there's another trail that takes you along the waterfront to the left here, but I see no lights down there. So I don't think it'll look particularly good on the camera. But there is a really nice area just up here to the left called the Music Garden. There's a nice little amphitheater. That's the 509 Harbourfront streetcar. It's an interesting looking truck. Let's see if we can actually see anything in here. All right, this looks pretty much pitch dark. Yeah, we're not going to be able to see anything. I will come back here during the daytime, as I mentioned earlier, as it's a very nice area. But without lights, this camera I have doesn't really stand a chance. So now that we've passed Spadina, the next major street up ahead will be Bathurst. Just to the left here is a nice little walk along the waterfront, but again, there's virtually no lighting at this time. Perhaps if I did this walk just a half hour earlier, it might have turned out better, but then we wouldn't have got the nice sunset when I was closer to the Harbourfront Centre area. So I guess there's really no winning this one. We got some lights here. Let's see if this will I'm really kind of flying blind here. I'm not sure if this will even be usable footage or not.
Yeah, I saw you going on a boat tour last week.
That's the old Canada malting silo in the background. Although again, I don't really know if you're going to be able to see that. So I think this is probably a good time and place to end this particular video. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this nighttime stroll along the city's waterfront on a end of summer Friday night. There are links to my Instagram account in the description, as well as my Patreon account if you wish to support this channel. And my other channel, which I've just launched, called Johnny Stumbles, so feel free to check that out and subscribe. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next one.